The massive command center aboard the Coalition flagship Unity's Promise buzzed with urgent activity as hundreds of alien beings worked at their stations. Holographic displays showed the advancing red tide of destruction across the galaxy's outer rim. Admiral Kaisong, a tall human with graying hair and tired eyes, stood motionless before the main tactical screen, watching as another star system blinked out of existence. The silence on the bridge was deafening. Nobody wanted to speak the truth that everyone already knew. The Devourers were winning. Commander Minho approached the Admiral with careful steps, his hands shaking slightly as he held a datapad. At 35, he had already seen more death and destruction than most beings experienced in several lifetimes. Sir, the latest reports from Sector 7 are ... not good. Kaisong did not turn around. He continued staring at the display where red markers crawled across the star map like a disease. How many this time? 3 complete star systems in the past week, Minho replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The Kepler mining colony, the Vega research station, and ... He paused, swallowing hard. The entire Proxima settlement. 15 billion lives, all gone. The bridge crew worked in hushed tones around them. Cetacean officers with their translucent blue skin moved between stations, their usual graceful movements now jerky with fear. The crystalline beings from the Andromeda sector chimed softly to each other in their musical language. Even their normally beautiful sounds carried notes of despair. General Sujin stepped up to join them at the tactical display. She was younger than both men, but her sharp eyes had earned her respect throughout the Coalition forces. The biomechanical analysis teams have finished studying the latest Devourer samples, she said, activating a smaller hologram that showed the twisted organic machinery of their enemies. The display revealed creatures that seemed part machine, part living tissue. Their ships grew rather than being built, and their weapons adapted in real time to counter any defense the Coalition developed. Conventional energy shields meant nothing to them. Plasma cannons that could destroy asteroids barely scratched their hulls. Any weaknesses discovered? Kaisong asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. None that our current technology can exploit, Sujin admitted. They consume everything in their path and use it to make themselves stronger. Metal, organic matter, even energy itself becomes part of their collective. Soft chiming sound filled the bridge as incoming communications requests flooded their systems. Minho quickly scanned through them, his expression growing more grim with each message. The Cetacean Home Fleet is requesting immediate evacuation support, he reported. Admiral Titlesong says their oceanic worlds cannot withstand another Devourer assault. They need to move their entire population to the inner systems. Another chime. The Crystalline Confederacy has begun emergency evacuation of all border colonies. They estimate they can save 60% of their population if they start moving now. More chimes followed in rapid succession. The Avian Republic was abandoning their nest worlds. The Silicon Collective was shutting down their mining operations. Even the proud warrior clans of the Rigel system were retreating rather than face certain destruction. What about Earth? General Sujin asked. Have the humans agreed to the evacuation plan? Minho checked his datapad again, frowning. That's strange. I've sent 17 evacuation notices to Earth Command, but they keep sending back the same response. He activated a small audio player. A gruff human voice filled the bridge. This is Earth Defense Command. We acknowledge your evacuation order. Response is negative. We will hold our positions and continue mining operations in all frontier sectors. Earth, out. The alien officers exchanged glances that clearly showed their confusion. Commanders made soft clicking sounds that translated to disbelief. The crystalline beings sang a short melody. It meant something close to foolish courage. Do they not understand the situation? Asked Captain Reefsinger, the Cetacean Tactical. Officer, the Devourers cannot be stopped with primitive weapons. Kaisun finally turned from the display. His face looked older than his 60 years. I've studied human military history. They have a saying, retreat hell, we just got here. They would rather die fighting than live running. But their technology is so basic, protested Engineer Crystal Song. From her station, kinetic weapons, chemical explosives, nuclear fission. These things are thousands of years old by our standards. The humans claim their railguns and nuclear warheads give them a fighting chance, Minho said, reading from Earth's latest military report. They say that while we've been perfecting energy weapons, they've been perfecting the art of blowing things up. General Sujin studied the human fleet positions on the tactical display. Earth's ships looked tiny compared to coalition vessels, and their weapons seemed almost laughably primitive. Yet something about their defensive formation showed careful planning and determination. Admiral, she said slowly, what if they're not wrong? What if their crude weapons actually work better against the Devourers than our advanced technology? Kaisung considered this for a long moment. Around them, the evacuation continued as species after species fled toward the safety of the galactic core. Only the humans remained in the outer rim, small and stubborn and apparently suicidal. It doesn't matter, he finally said. The Coalition Council has voted. All forces withdraw to defensive positions around the core worlds. We cannot risk our fleets on human optimism. He walked to his command chair and activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice carried to every coalition ship as he spoke the words that would abandon humanity to face the darkness alone. All coalition vessels. This is Admiral Kaisung. Execute withdrawal. Order 7 Alpha. Ow! Fall back to core world defensive positions. Immediately, he paused, looking one last time at Earth's small fleet markers on the display. Earth Defense Command, you are on your own. May whatever gods you believe in protect you. The transmission ended, and the Great Retreat began. Captain Dongwu stood at the observation window of Luna Station, watching the final Coalition transport ship vanish into the swirling colors of hyperspace. The massive vessel had carried the last of the alien diplomats and their military advisors back to the safety of the core worlds. Now the space around Earth felt strangely empty and quiet. The station's corridors, which had once bustled with beings from dozens of different species, now echoed with only human footsteps. Dongwu walked slowly back to the command center, passing empty quarters that had housed cetacean water breathers and crystal chambers designed for the silicon-based life forms. Everyone was gone except for the humans who had chosen to stay. In the command center, a skeleton crew of 23 humans worked at their stations. These were volunteers all, people who could have evacuated with their families, but chose instead to remain at their posts. Lieutenant Haijin looked up from her sensor array as the captain entered. She was young, barely 25, but her steady hands and sharp mind had earned her the respect of the entire crew. Captain, the transports. Hyperspace signature has faded completely, she reported. We're officially alone out here. Dongwu nodded and took his position at the central command chair. Through the reinforced windows, he could see Earth hanging in space like a blue jewel, home to 8 billion people who were counting on this small group to protect them from the approaching nightmare. Status report on our defensive fleet, he ordered. Sergeant Ji-hoon pulled up the tactical display on the main screen. What appeared was hardly inspiring by galactic standards. 47 ships of various sizes floated in formation around Earth's orbital space. Most were converted mining vessels, their cargo holds now filled with missiles and railgun ammunition. A few were outdated military frigates that the Coalition had considered too primitive to bother taking with them. The mining ship Iron Mountain has finished installing the new railgun system, Ji-hoon reported. Captain Liho says it can fire a tungsten rod at 15% of light speed. The asteroid crusher has loaded nuclear-tipped mining charges into its cargo launchers. Dongwu studied the readouts. Their ships looked tiny compared to the massive Coalition vessels that had fled. The weapons were simple chemical rockets, magnetic accelerators, and nuclear warheads. Technology that the advanced alien species considered ancient and worthless. Any word from Earth Defense Command? He asked Communications Officer Byung-ho, activated his console. General Kuman sends his regards and confirms that all planetary defense batteries are fully operational. The lunar railgun installations are loaded and ready. He also wanted me to tell you that every human settlement from Mars to the asteroid belt is standing firm. A soft alarm chimed through the command center. Lieutenant Haijin's eyes widened as she studied her long-range sensors. Captain, I'm detecting movement at the edge of the system. Multiple contacts, moving fast toward the inner planets. The main display shifted to show the sensor readings. Dozens of red dots appeared on the edge of the star system, moving in a formation that seemed almost alive. They pulsed and shifted like a swarm of insects, but each represented a biomechanical ship the size of a city block. "Devour advanced scouts," Dongwu said quietly. "How long until they reach us?" Hajin ran quick calculations on her computer. Current speed and trajectory. They'll be in the asteroid belt in 6 hours. Mars orbit in 8 hours. Earth orbit in 12 hours. Dongwu stood up and activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice would now reach every human ship in the defensive formation. Every person who had chosen to stay and fight rather than run. All ships, this is Luna Station Command. Captain Dongwu speaking. He paused, looking around at his small crew. In a few hours, we're going to face an enemy that has destroyed entire star systems. An enemy that the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy couldn't stop. But they made one mistake. They're about to learn what humans are really made of. On the display, he could see the human ships moving into attack formation. The converted mining vessel Rockbreaker took point position, its massive cargo launchers loaded with nuclear warheads. Behind it, the frigate Defiance powered up its railgun systems, while smaller patrol boats formed protective screens around the larger vessels. "Remember, we're not trying to win some glorious battle," Dongwu continued. "We're buying time. For our families, for our children, for everyone on Earth who believes we can hold this line. We're going to show these creatures that humans don't know how to surrender." The hours passed slowly as the enemy scouts approached. Haijin provided regular updates on their position and speed. The biomechanical ships moved in ways that defied normal physics, shifting and flowing like living things rather than mechanical constructs. Finally, the moment arrived. The first wave of Devourer scouts emerged from the asteroid belt, their organic hulls gleaming with an oily black surface that seemed to absorb light. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, like massive sea creatures swimming through the void of space. "All ships, weapons free," Dongwu ordered. "Fire at will. Show them what our primitive weapons can do." The space around Earth erupted in violence. Railguns fired tungsten rods that streaked across the void like silver lightning. Nuclear missiles left trails of fire as they accelerated toward their targets. The mining ship Iron Mountain unleashed its main gun, sending a projectile moving at incredible speed directly into the center of the enemy formation. The Devourers had adapted to energy weapons, learning to absorb plasma blasts and deflect laser fire, but they had never faced the raw, brutal force of kinetic weapons. The tungsten rod from Iron Mountain punched completely through a bioship, tearing it apart from the inside. Nuclear warheads detonated against organic armor that had no defense. Against simple atomic explosions, for the first time in months, the galaxy received a transmission that was not a cry for help or a report of defeat. Captain Dongwu's voice carried across space to the fleeing coalition fleets. Calm and steady despite the battle raging around him. "This is Earth Defense Command. The enemy has engaged our forces. Repeat, the Devourers have met human resistance." He paused as another enemy ship exploded under railgun fire. The line holds. 3 levels beneath the bustling streets of New Seoul. Dr. Youngsu rubbed his tired eyes and took another sip of cold coffee. The underground laboratory hummed with activity as his research team worked around the clock, trying to unlock the secrets of their alien enemies. Scattered across multiple work tables were chunks of twisted metal and organic matter, pieces of Devourer bioships that had been blasted apart in the recent battles above. Earth Young-Soo had not slept properly in 5 days. Dark circles under his eyes made him look older than his 42 years, but his mind remained sharp and focused. Every piece of alien technology they studied brought them closer to understanding how to fight back against the seemingly unstoppable enemy. Researcher. Nari hunched over a powerful microscope at the far end of the lab, her long black hair tied back in a messy ponytail. She had been examining the same sample for 6 hours straight. mapping the intricate neural pathways that ran through the organic circuitry like veins through living tissue. "Doctor, you need to see this," she called out, her voice hoarse from exhaustion. "The neural networks in these fragments are completely different from anything we've encountered before." Young-Soo walked over to her station, stepping carefully around cables and equipment that covered the laboratory floor. The microscope display showed a complex web of organic fibers that pulsed with faint electrical signals, even though the sample had been removed from its host ship days ago. "They're still trying to communicate," Nuri explained, pointing to the rhythmic patterns on her scanner. "Even these tiny pieces are attempting to reconnect with the larger hive mind network. Like each fragment contains a part of their collective consciousness." Young-Soo studied the readouts carefully. The alien neural network showed a level of integration that human scientists had only dreamed about. Every individual unit was connected to every other unit in a vast web of shared thoughts and experiences. There was no single leader, no central mesentral command structure. Instead, millions of minds functioned as one perfect collective. "But look at this interesting pattern," Young-Soo said, adjusting the microscope settings to zoom in further. "See how the individual nodes cannot function independently. Each connection point requires constant input from the network to remain active." Nari leaned in closer, her red eyes widening as she understood what he was showing her. "If we could disrupt the signal between nodes, the entire network would collapse," Young-Soo finished. "Their greatest strength becomes their greatest weakness." The laboratory doors burst open with a loud crash. Colonel Tejo strode into the room, still wearing his battle-damaged combat armor from the latest engagement in the asteroid belt. His helmet was cracked, and scorch marks covered his chest plate. Behind him, 2 junior officers carried additional alien wreckage recovered from the battlefield. "Doctor, we need whatever breakthrough you're working on, and we need it now," Tejo said urgently. "Long-range scanners show 3 more Devourer waves approaching the outer system. Each wave is larger than the last, and they're adapting to our kinetic weapons faster than we expected." "Oh." Young-Soo set down his coffee cup and turned to face the Colonel. "How much time do we have?" 72 hours, maybe less," Tejo replied. "The first wave will hit our forward positions near Jupiter. After that, they'll be at Earth's doorstep." Young-Soo looked around his laboratory at the scattered alien fragments and the tired faces of his research team. They had been working on understanding Devourer technology for weeks. But creating an actual weapon based on their discoveries would normally take months of careful development and testing. "We might have something," he said slowly, "but it's going to require a completely different approach to warfare." He activated the main laboratory display, which showed a 3-dimensional model of the Devourer neural network. The complex web of connections pulsed with simulated data flows, representing the constant communication between individual bioships and their fleet. "Their hive mind operates on perfect harmony and coordination," Young-Soo explained. "Every thought, every decision, every action is shared instantly across their entire collective. It makes them incredibly efficient, but it also makes them vulnerable to a specific type of attack." Nari joined them at the display, bringing up her latest research data. "Human consciousness works completely differently. Our thoughts are chaotic, individual, and unpredictable. We have emotions, random ideas, conflicting desires, things that would be considered noise or interference in their perfect system." "So?" Tejo asked impatiently. Young-Soo smiled for the first time in days, but it was not a happy smile. It was the grim expression of a man who had discovered how to turn an enemy's strength against them. "So we teach them something they cannot adapt. 2, he said, "we introduce chaos into their perfect order." He pulled up another screen showing human brainwave patterns recorded from volunteers in the military. The irregular, unpredictable signals looked completely different from the smooth, harmonious patterns of the Devourer network. "We can create neural disruptors based on human thought patterns," Young-Soo continued. "Weapons that broadcast the chaos of human consciousness directly into their hive mind. It would be like injecting pure noise into a perfectly tuned orchestra." Tejo studied the data carefully, his military mind already working through the tactical possibilities. "How would we deploy such weapons?" "That's the beautiful part," Nari said excitedly. We don't need massive bombs or complex delivery systems. Small devices that can be attached to missiles, torpedoes, even carried by individual soldiers in close combat. Close combat? Taeho raised an eyebrow. You're talking about boarding actions against bioships? Young-soo nodded. The closer we can get these disruptors to their neural centers, the more damage they'll cause to the network. A single human soldier with the right equipment could potentially disable an entire bioship by introducing chaos directly into its nervous system. The colonel was quiet for a long moment, considering the implications. Human forces had been fighting a defensive battle, using their primitive but effective kinetic weapons to damage enemy ships from a distance. But what Young-soo was proposing would require getting up close and personal with creatures that could consume entire star systems. How soon can you have working prototypes? Taeho finally asked. Give us 48 hours, Young-soo replied. We'll need every fabrication unit in the city working around the clock, but we can do it. Taeho nodded and activated his communication device. This is Colonel Taeho to Earth Defense Command. Begin immediate preparation for close quarters. Assault operations. We're taking the fight directly to them. As the colonel left to coordinate the military preparations, Young-soo turned back to his research team. They had less than 2 days to create weapons based on the chaotic nature of human consciousness. Devices that could turn the orderly perfection of the devourer hive mind into their greatest vulnerability. Well, he said to Nari and the others, I guess we're not sleeping for the next 2 days. Admiral Ji-woo gripped the railing of the command bridge as the battleship, Indomitable, shuddered under the recoil of its massive railguns. Through the reinforced viewing ports, she watched streams of tungsten projectiles tear through the organic, hulls of devourer bioships like hot knives through butter. The enemy vessels writhed and twisted in space, their living metal surfaces rippling with what could only be described as pain. The Indomitable itself was a strange sight to behold. Originally a coalition heavy cruiser abandoned during the Great Retreat, human engineers had rebuilt it from the ground up. The sleek alien curves now bristled with crude but effective human weapons. Missile pods welded to the hull sat next to elegant energy projectors salvaged from destroyed bioships. It was ugly, dangerous, and uniquely human. Neural disruption field at maximum power, reported Captain Seung-min from his position at the weapons console. His fingers danced across controls that mixed human-computer interfaces with alien bioneural systems. The enemy hive mind connections are completely scrambled within a 50-kilometer radius. Gi-woo watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The Devourer fleet that had been moving in perfect coordination just minutes before was now breaking apart into confused, isolated groups. Individual bioships spun helplessly in space, or neural networks overloaded by the chaotic human brainwave patterns broadcasting from the disruption field generators. Boarding teams report successful infiltration of target ships 7 through 12, announced Lieutenant Cheng Ho from his communications station. They're planting the sabotage devices now. On the display, Gi-woo could see the small, human assault craft that had attached themselves to the enemy vessels like parasites. The boarding teams inside wore specially designed armor that protected them from the bioship's neural influence, while allowing them to move freely through the organic corridors. Each team carried enough explosive charges to cripple a ship from the inside. The strategy had seemed insane when Dr. Young-soo first proposed it. Send human soldiers directly into the belly of creatures that could absorb and process any form of matter they encountered. But the neural disruptors had changed everything. Protected by fields of pure human chaos, the boarding parties could walk through devourer ships like ghosts. Invisible to the collective consciousness that normally detected every threat, Admiral incoming transmission from Assault Team Leader, Corporal In-ho Chung-ho called out. He says the enemy ships are even stranger on the inside than we thought. GUE activated the communication link. Corporal In-ho's voice crackled through the speakers, distorted by the bioship's interference but still clear enough to understand. Ma'am, these things aren't just ships. They're like giant living creatures. The walls pulse like heartbeats, and there are veins running through everything carrying some kind of fluid. But the weird part is, they seem to be sleeping now. Ever since we activated our neural shields, They haven't responded to our presence at all. Plant your charges and get out of there, Corporal, Gi-Wu ordered. We don't know how long the disruption. Field will keep them confused. Yes, ma'am. Charges set in the central neural cluster. We'll be back on board in 10 minutes. Gi-Wu turned her attention back to the larger battle. Around the Indomitable, a fleet of human ships pressed their attack against the scattered Devourer forces. The converted mining vessel Rock Crusher fired salvos of nuclear-tipped missiles into a bioship twice its size, as the frigate Defiance used its railguns to methodically tear apart enemy vessels that could no longer coordinate their defenses. Communications Officer Biora, any word from our other battle groups? Gu asked. Biora checked her displays and smiled. Admiral, I'm receiving victory reports from across 3 star systems. The fleet group, under Captain Jaesoon, has successfully retaken the Proxima mining colonies. Admiral Wanzik reports that Devourer forces in the Alpha Centauri system are in full retreat. The news was almost too good to believe. For months, the Devourers had seemed unstoppable, consuming everything in their path with mechanical efficiency. But the neural disruptors had revealed a critical weakness in their perfect collective consciousness. Cut off from the hive mind, the individual bioships became as helpless as newborn animals. What's the status of our captured technology program? Ji-Woo inquired. Dr. Young-Soo's research teams have been working around the clock, Biora replied. Every Devourer ship we disable provides new biotechnology samples. They've already figured out how to integrate their organic computing systems with our electronics. The new hybrid weapons are showing remarkable effectiveness. Gi-Wu nodded, studying the tactical display that showed human fleets advancing steadily through space that had been abandoned just weeks earlier. Each victory brought them new alien technology to study and reverse engineer. Each captured bioship revealed more secrets about how the Devourers operated and how they could be defeated. Signal all fleet commanders, she ordered. We're advancing. To the Kepler sector. Intelligence reports indicate a major Devourer staging area there. Captain Sungmin looked up from his console with surprise. Ma'am, the Kepler sector is deep in former Coalition territory. It's a long way from Earth's defensive perimeter. Goose smiled, but her expression was cold and determined. Captain, we're no longer defending Earth's borders. We're liberating the galaxy. The irony of the situation was not lost on her. The Coalition species had abandoned these star systems to save themselves, leaving humanity to face the Devourer threat alone. But instead of simply surviving, humans had learned to fight back. They had turned the aliens' abandonment into an opportunity to perfect new forms of warfare. Helm, set course for the Kepler system, Gi-Wu commanded. All ships, prepare for jump to hyperspace. It's time to show the galaxy that humans don't just defend their home. We take back what was lost. The Indomitable and its escort fleet disappeared into the swirling colors of hyperspace, carrying the war directly to the enemy's strongholds. Behind them, the wreckage of Devourer bioships drifted silently in space, their once perfect collective consciousness shattered by the chaotic unpredictability of human thought. The hunters had become the hunted. President Soyoung walked slowly through the corridors of the massive Kerbal station that now served as the headquarters for the reformed Galactic Defense Coalition. The halls that had once echoed with only human voices now buzzed with the sounds of dozens of different species, all speaking in their various languages and communication methods. The station itself was a marvel of combined technology, mixing human engineering with alien innovations recovered from the defeated Devourer forces. She paused at the large windows overlooking the main assembly chamber, watching as representatives from across the galaxy took their seats for the historic ceremony. The cetacean delegates moved gracefully in their water-filled environmental suits, their blue skin shimmering under the artificial lights, crystalline beings from the Andromeda. Sectors sang soft harmonies to each other, their translucent bodies reflecting rainbow patterns. Even the proud Avian Republic had sent their finest diplomats, their feathered crests held high despite the obvious nervousness in their movements. Soyoung?
Oh.
Remembered the last time these species had gathered together? 6 months ago, they had. been fleeing in terror from an enemy they could not defeat, abandoning entire star systems in their desperate retreat to safety. Now they sat before humanity, seeking guidance and protection from the same primitive species they had once pitied. The doors to the assembly chamber opened with a soft hiss. Saul Young entered to face the collected representatives of galactic civilization. Her simple black suit stood in stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments worn by the alien delegates. She carried no weapons, wore no armor, and bore no symbols of rank beyond a small Earth flag pin on her collar. Yet every being in the room understood that she represented the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. 6 months ago, you made a choice, Saul Young began, her voice carrying clearly through the universal translators mounted throughout the chamber. When the Devourer threat became too great, when your most advanced weapons proved useless, when your perfect strategies failed, you chose to retreat to safety. You left Earth and humanity to face annihilation alone. The Cetacean Ambassador, Admiral Tidal's song, shifted uncomfortably in his environmental suit. The water around him rippled with patterns that indicated deep shame. Beside him, the crystalline representative, Crystal Harmony, chimed with notes that translated to profound regret and embarrassment. We came here today, So Young continued, not to receive your apologies, but to establish a new foundation for galactic defense. Because while you were hiding in your core worlds, humanity learned something important about warfare, about survival, and about what it means to stand firm when everything else falls apart. She activated the large display screens that surrounded the chamber. The images showed human fleets patrolling star systems that had been abandoned during the Great Retreat. Former Devourer strongholds were now occupied by combined human-alien forces, their biotechnology being carefully studied and integrated into new defensive systems. The Devourer threat is contained, announced General Wenho as he stepped forward to join the president. His uniform was simple military dress. The scars on his face and hands told the story of countless battles fought in the depths of space. Their remaining forces are isolated in the outer rim and being systematically eliminated by joint operations between human forces and the species that have chosen to rejoin the fight. General Wenho activated another display showing tactical maps of the galaxy. Red zones marked the last known Devourer positions, surrounded by green indicators representing allied patrol groups. The difference between this map and the ones from 6 months ago was striking. Where once the red tide of destruction had been advancing toward the galactic core, now only scattered pockets remained. But the most important lesson we have learned, Wenho continued, is that walls are not built by those who run away. Defense is not about retreating to safer positions. True protection comes from standing firm, adapting to new threats, and refusing to surrender what you value most. The signing ceremony that followed was unlike any diplomatic event in galactic history. Instead of Earth joining an existing coalition, the other species were petitioning to become part of a new organization built around human military doctrine and philosophy. The documents established Earth as the permanent military headquarters, with human tactical training becoming mandatory for all coalition forces. As the various ambassadors signed the agreements, Saul Young noticed how different their attitudes were compared to 6 months ago. The condescending looks and pitying glances had been replaced by respect and, in some cases, obvious awe. The primitive humans with their crude kinetic weapons had accomplished what the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy could not. The new coalition will operate under a simple principle, Saul Young explained as the ceremony concluded. We do not abandon our positions. We do not retreat from threats. We adapt, we overcome, and we hold the line no matter what comes against us. The alien delegates departed one by one, returning to their homeworlds to begin implementing the new military strategies and technologies that humans had developed. Many carried with them neural disruptor devices and hybrid weapons that combined human engineering with captured Devourer bio-technology. So Young remained on the observation deck long after the others had left, watching Earth turn slowly in space below. The blue and green planet looked peaceful from this distance, but she knew that it had become something far more significant than just humanity's home world. It was now the center of galactic defense, the place where civilization had learned To fight back against the darkness near the center of the station, a memorial wall honored the humans who had died during the desperate months when Earth stood alone. The names covered nearly the entire surface, representing pilots, soldiers, scientists, and civilians who had given their lives to hold the line. At the base of the wall, carved in simple letters, was an inscription that had become the motto of the new coalition. When they abandoned the front, Earth became the wall that held. Young touched the wall gently, thinking of all the people who had believed that humanity could survive when no one else did. They had been abandoned as a sacrifice too, by time for others to escape. Instead, they had become the foundation upon which a stronger, more resilient galactic civilization would be built. The wall had held, and it would continue to hold.